Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva, Thunder Wizard. Okay, so today what are we going to talk about? I want to talk to you about, the main thing I want to talk to you about is how to access your soul. And what does that mean? And I'm going to be responding to a question that was given to me, and I appreciate, by one of my apprentices who sent me this question. And having to do with the difference between the way that I teach about our three selves and our connection to the universe and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to some other stuff that is out there being taught. So before we get into that, let me just say my experience and my belief is this. If you really want to get the most out of this life and any future lives, experiences, dimensions, if your goal is to achieve enlightenment and to merge with the universe and to be free from reincarnation or anything else, what we're really talking about is wanting to be completely connected to one's self. And so my feeling is that the best way to get the most out of this life, which is we're here in this life, we can talk about other dimensions and all that other stuff all we want, but we're here in this life. So if you want to get the most out of this life, my experience is you're going to get the most out of this life if you're connected to your soul. And so we need to lay some groundwork on what the soul is. A lot of you have heard this before, but it's helpful to go through the basics. So your soul is infinite. Your soul is connected to everything. Your soul is everything. You know, I'm not at all into the Abrahamic version of the cosmos, but you know, there's one supposed quote of Jesus, and as you know, I don't believe actually existed. And the quote is, what was I going to say? Quote is, when he was being allegedly, in this fictional version, he was being attacked. His reputation was being attacked by the religious leaders, and he said, supposedly quoting the Old Testament, one of the Old Testament prophets, he said, "Don't you know that you are gods?" Because they had said that he claimed to be God, and he said, "Don't you know that you are gods?" And he was quoting the Old Testament. So the understanding is that we are in fact God. Whatever that means to you. God is not something out there. God is you. When you get to your core essence of yourself, you are God. So the problem arises in living in this three-dimensional world, in this physical meat bag, in this Maya, this illusion, this matrix that we live in. People are trying to escape the matrix. And I keep telling you that the way to escape the matrix is through the matrix. And so, again, we have to look at our assumptions about everything. And if your assumption and my assumption are different, we're not going to be able to communicate. You're not going to be able to hear what I'm saying. So for right now, take your assumptions, which you may not even know what your assumptions are, by the way. Take your assumptions about what you think you are, the universe is, and your relationship to the universe, and just put that aside for a second. You can come back and pick it up later if you decide that you don't believe in my version. All right, but just put it aside here. And in my version, you are everything. You are infinity. You are God. You are the one who has created everything, including yourself, including this planet, including this cosmos, 95% of which we can't access, by the way. That just blew my mind recently when I when I researched that and stumbled across the understanding that from the perspective of astrophysics, we only inhabit and experience 5% of the actual universe. That the other 95% is dark energy and dark matter. And the word dark, it's not dark meaning, don't get wrapped up in all that stuff. It just means that they can't see it and they can't detect it. I mean, they can't interact with it, but they can see that it's there. It's not affected by time, space, light, but it creates gravity and all kinds of other things. So we know it's there, but we just don't know what it is. And it doesn't necessarily have to interact with you. It's not interested in you. And yet it is constantly being created, and it's just incredibly mysterious. That's 95% of the universe. We're only in 5%. And that includes all the stuff you think is not, that you can't interact with. Things like gravity, things like black holes, electromagnetism, plasma, all the light wavelengths that we can't see, quarks, and things that we don't even consider part of this physical reality. Even with all that stuff, it's only 5%. The rest of it is 95%. We don't know what the hell it is. So, you're here in this 5%, and you want to get back to your true essence. You want to escape this limited reality. And so my understanding is that you are an infinite being. So that is infinite. Beyond if you were just filled up the 5% of the infinite universe, we're talking about the infinite universe, right? The universe that is infinite, that goes on and on to infinity in all directions. The trillion, quadrillion, bazillion planets and stars. That's just 5%. That's just 5% of the known universe. You created all of that. And so we start from there. And you wanted to experience three-dimensional reality. Reason why you wanted to experience three-dimensional reality wasn't because you were sent here. You weren't placed here by some other higher force. God did not create you and put you in a body. You're not being judged. There's nobody taking notes. There's not going to be a quiz later. You're not going to get punished if you don't do it perfectly. You're not going to, none of that is happening. You're not going to be punished. There's no trapping that's going on. Any experience of being trapped is your own creation. I'm not trying to minimize it. I know a lot of you have really difficult lives. Some of you have horrific lives and have been through horrific problems. I know that. I'm not trying to minimize any of that. I'm not trying to say, if you just didn't mean it, it would all be me. I'm not saying that at all. This life for me has been a tremendous struggle. And I'm really happy with how it's turning out. But part of it is coming to this understanding that I'm sharing with you now. So the question is, how do we access our souls? So the first thing, again, I want you to become conscious of your assumptions of how you got here. Do you believe that you were born by some other being? Did God put you here? Were you forced to reincarnate? I use the word forced. Do you believe that there are beings of light, or beings that are masquerading as beings of light, who prevent you from moving on to the bliss of pure existence by forcing you back down in here? Do you believe that you've been forced back here because you made mistakes or because you did something wrong? Just be honest with yourself. Do you believe that? Is that how it feels to you? I won't judge you because I understand why you feel that way. But I'd like for you to put that aside for a moment and just decide to Explore the possibility that none of that is real, that this is your conscious choice, that you chose to be limited in three-dimensional space because this would be the most advantageous for your empowerment, for your growth. One example that I give is my favorite thing in the entire universe, and really the main thing that keeps me going, is surfing. That's me surfing my local beach break in California a few years ago. That's the whole reason I'm here. Now, look at me. I'm on this small polyurethane little thing that's floating in the water, and I am standing up on top of water moving. That picture makes it look like I'm moving really fast, but sometimes you're moving really fast, and it's an impossible kind of thing that surfing is. It's just this. I'm just still amazed by it. It's so magical to me. But if I wasn't encapsulated in that three-dimensional meat bag right there, I wouldn't be able to surf. I wouldn't be able to experience the waves from a very singular, limited perspective, which is the whole point. That's what makes it fun. Without a surfboard, which further isolates me and makes me limited, I can't have all the fun that you see me having there. It's impossible to do. Your soul came here to surf in whatever way that is for you. In order to do that, you have to be limited. You have to be in a body. You have to have an ego. You have to have things to overcome. There's 2 times in my life. I started surfing when I was 10 years old, 1973. And 2 times in my life, I stopped surfing to go the first one was I went off to college and I went to go be something. And I stopped for quite a few years, and then I came back and I had to learn all over again, which was hard on my ego. And I was I think I was just hitting 30 at that point. And I surfed from, like 30 to 30, ages 30 to 39. And then I stopped again to go do something. And I left California and I went and got married and lived in Idaho and tried to be a house husband. And it was just miserable. And I came back, and at age 49, I started surfing again. And I was overweight and out of shape, and I was in pain, and I was physically ill and all that. And I thought I was going to die. And I paddled out, on a winter's day, cold, middle of the winter, and the waves were huge, and I physically just couldn't do it. I thought I was going to drown, but I said, whatever. I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes, and if I die surfing, at least I did what I wanted to do. And of course, none of those things happened, and here I am now, in my mid-50s. I'm approaching 60, and I'm out there doing this kind of stuff. So I'm really enjoying and appreciating being in a physical body. I don't want to escape out of my body somewhere else, because if I do, I can't do that. A lot of other things I can't do. I can't enjoy sex. I can't enjoy, sports. I can't enjoy walking through the forest. I can't enjoy all kinds of things if I'm out in infinity. I've done that. So have you. You just forgot. So I want you to understand that you came here for some kind of physical three-dimensional experience so you would have fun. Got it? So, whatever other feelings you have about you're here because you made mistakes and there's karma and the archons are forcing you to this and that, you can come back, and if you want to be miserable and be, a victim, you can come back to that later if you want. For now, just try and start with this assumption. If we share this assumption, then we'll be able to communicate. All right, so having said that, let me just go ahead and get started with the question that was given to me by one of my apprentices. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. So she says, "Hello, Michael. I was watching one of your recent videos and thought of a question. Before I met you, my understanding of my spirit goes like this. There are several layers of spirit. There is the layer of spirit that inhabits my body. The layer above that is called the higher self, and then above that was the soul, which knew everything. I heard about the different dimensions in this way. We live in the third dimension, and people talk about ascending to the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, etc. The further we ascended, the closer we become one with our soul. The idea was that our soul resided as a whole beyond the 12th dimension, and as we descended down, we fragmented further through each dimension until we reached where we are now. As we ascend, we regain those parts of ourselves until we are whole again. When I took a quantum healing course, this idea was reinforced. We have one spirit in our bodies. I would like to refer this as our awareness of our lives on this planet. As we ascend, this awareness connects and becomes a part of greater awareness. To me, it was about a singular awareness of spirit. In your teachings, I was introduced to the three selves. We consist of three different entities which go their own way when we die. My questions are the awareness as we walk in this life. What part of the three selves is this awareness? When we die, which of our three selves does this awareness remain, or is it part of all three? All right, so this is where we get into, by the way, I appreciate the question, and this is not as exhibited, this is not an unusual understanding. You can go pretty much anywhere to any New Age bookstore or any kind of meditation somewhere, and you're going to find a lot of people talking in this same way, that you're down here in this physical gross manifestation, but there are these higher dimensions, and you're trying to access these higher dimensions so that you can become closer to the universe, and in this case closer to yourself. Somebody could easily replace that with God, to get closer to God. I mean, it's the same idea. So if this is your assumption, just analyze this. If this is your assumption that you live in this dense physical reality and then your true existence is higher above you in more etheric dimensions, and that your goal through whatever it is you're doing is to reach those higher dimensions in order to achieve awareness, enlightenment, moksha, liberation, escape the matrix. It's the same idea. You see that? Escaping the matrix, it's the same idea as ascending to the seventh heaven. Now, this is even stuff that I've run into in Taoist understanding. There are multiple heavens that you can achieve, and the one of the sect that I was practicing was the sect of the Shang Qing, which meant, I can't remember exactly what it means, but it basically meant the highest level of reality. And so the whole goal of all the meditative practices done by the monks was to achieve that connection so that you would rise in the light of the noontime sun. You would rise to the level of Shang Qing. You would no longer be physically human. So there's value to this. It's not that I'm trying to say this is wrong or right, but I want you to take a look at the judgment in it. Now, this person isn't talking about any judgment, but I want you to hear the judgment. The inherent judgment in that is that physical reality is bad, non-physical reality is good. Let us get out of the bad and get to the good. If I didn't, just from that, I could walk out and I could start a whole teaching on how we have to get out of our lower dense vibration of ego and fear and sensuality and superficiality and money. I mean, I could easily launch into that, and everybody would be nodding their head, because I just got through telling you the way to get to your true soul is to ascend to the 12th dimension, the 7th, the 5th. It doesn't matter. It's somewhere over there. We're in 3, and we need to get to 4 or 5, or maybe all the way up to 12. And as I said, I could easily just go and talk about how this lower dimension is full of anger and fear and violence, and we need to deny that and move past those things to get to the higher dimension, right? That would be a reasonable thing to do after reading this. Even after me telling you, I was practiced in a sect that believed in ascending in the light of the noontime sun all the way to the highest dimension. And they meant that literally. They meant that literally in the light of day, meaning, in this three-dimensional reality, that somebody could watch you ascend. They meant that literally. So I'm not trying to minimize this, but I want you to understand the inherent judgments that we have associated with this idea of ascending. Now, where did this come from? This came from Gnosticism. As you know, I have a lot of videos where I attack Christianity and seek to destroy the negative connotations of Christianity and all that good stuff. And I've recently made some more videos about Gnosticism. Now, when you talk to the average spiritual but not religious, quote unquote, person, and you talk about the Bible or you talk about Jesus, most people want to say, oh yeah, Jesus really existed, or they'll want to say, well, Jesus is more of this spiritual essence, or they'll say that Jesus is an avatar of Vishnu. And people misunderstood it, and when he was here, he spoke about true spirituality, and then the religious leaders, they took what he said and then they warped it to fit their, evil imperial agenda, right? I believed that for a long time as well, until I actually did some serious research, like historical research into, did this man Jesus of Nazareth actually exist? And I came to the conclusion that he was completely, totally fictional. And he was created after the fact and was used to create a religion. And he was actually based on, it was actually not that Jesus was this Gnostic whose teachings were taken out of context and used and warped. It was that he himself, the story of Jesus is that religious leaders and imperial leaders wanted to take the Gnostic movement and actually put a face to it and then use it. So Jesus is actually the attempt, the story, the fictional story of Jesus is the actual vehicle through which Gnosticism was warped into its current state, which is now Christianity. Whether that's Catholicism or whether that's any other sect of Christianity. That's where it came from. So what is Gnosticism? I've shared this before, but I'll share it again. Gnosticism is this belief that there are multiple levels of reality, that there's this gross level of physical reality where we are limited and we are bound by negative, lower dimensional spiritual vibrations, if you will. And that as you go higher up, you get to the true vibrational essence of the soul and of spirituality. And there's this huge judgment. Non-physical is good, physical is bad. And so they've taken the idea of God and they've turned it into this thing called the demiurge, which means that there is this power, like this earthly power, which is similar to the idea in the Christian understanding of the devil. There's this power or this God, this evil, bad God that is ruling this evil, dense, painful, full of misery, physical existence. And we have to achieve gnosis, which is self-awareness, in order to move past that and get to the true God. So there's a true God way up here and a false God way down here. And if you have gnosis or self-awareness, you've moved past all of these, these bad things, and you've gotten to the good thing. And so they were very ascetic. Jesus, in fact, the character Jesus is supposed to be a Nazarite. And that's where you get the word Nazareth from, because Nazarites were an actual sect that had a a community that was called Nazareth. That's why in the Gospels he's Jesus of Nazareth, because the people alive at the time that those Gospels were written knew where Nazareth was and knew that there was this ascetic sect of Jews that lived there. And so he became like, see, he's a Nazarite. He's part of us. He's not part of the world. And even that whole biblical thing, in the world but not of it. This is all coming from that same fundamental assumption that physical reality is bad and non-physical reality is good. And people want to believe this because of multiple reasons, but philosophically they feel it represents achieving freedom, to free yourself from the shackles that bind you to this physical, evil, bad world. But that is really just a way of explaining the emotional experience of being physically bound to society. And what is the most popular thing if you're into whatever kind of spirituality you are, whether you're out there, braiding your hair into cornrows, so that you can have crazy hippie hair, or whether you're wanting to escape the matrix. It's all the same. You're trying to free yourself from the feeling of being trapped by society, by them, by the government, by your own negative feelings, by physical desires, by money, by the demiurge, by the archons. The word the archons comes from Gnosticism as well. That's where you get this idea that there's these false beings of light that keep you from achieving awareness. This is where this all comes from. So all of that, which is something that was new, understand that this Gnostic understanding of earth is bad, heaven is good, and that we're trapped in this evil, blind, physical thing, and we need to. That's all new stuff. Relatively speaking, we have been, as far as we know, human beings, modern human beings, have been on the planet for only 100,000 years. Of those 100,000 years, only the last 2,000 have we had this idea that there's this God, one God ruling everything, and there's this bad earth and this good heaven. Before that, everything was just part of reality. It was just this multi-dimensional reality that we lived in, and it was all part of it. There was no difference between humans and spirits and giants and elves and dwarves and nature spirits and trees and rocks and the stars and the ocean. These were all beings that lived in one big giant world that we all lived in. There was no separation between any of it. You could have a dream where you went and talked to your ancestor, and then you wake up, and then the next day you're walking in the forest with your hunter friend, and you said, "Yeah, I talked to my dad last night, and we talked about this, and he said that tree over there is actually on fire, and and everybody knows what you're talking about. The guy you're walking knows that you had a dream, and that he looks at the tree you just talked about that's supposed to be on fire and thinks to himself, wow, that tree's on fire," which of course it's not, but he can see that it's not, but he knows that his friend's father, who he knows is dead, has talked to him and is explaining to him the spiritual nature of everything around him. It's nothing crazy, nothing new. It's all part of the way things are. We're just one expression of many different things. So this idea that you have to get out of yourself to get to your true self is actually a form of denial. You're trying to escape. The only reason you want to escape is if you're in pain, if you're miserable, if you're frightened. I'm not judging you. Let's just be honest. That's how it works. So this tremendous desire to achieve the fourth and the fifth dimension, I would be making so much more money if I taught that. If I said to you, listen, I can tell you how to get to the fifth dimensional awareness, and if you breathe like this and take this special course that I have and come with me on a cruise, it's $10,000, and I'll put my energy into a crystal and I'll give it to you. And if you meditate on the crystal that I put my energy into, you can be one with my power. I'm one with the fifth dimension, and I'm here, and I am the portal, and I speak to Zoltar the Magnificent, who lives on Zeta Reticuli and says really normal sort of common sense things, but because he lives in Zeta Reticuli, oh my God, this guy's a prophet. And yes, I wash my hair every day and I take a bath, and by doing that I cleanse my aura and go to the... Do you listen to the garbage? The self-denial and all of that? Now let's flip it on its head. In traditional understanding, meaning before 2,000 years ago, before we had these empires that actually did lord over people, and you had soldiers walking down the street, and you had to toe the line, or else you'd get flayed alive, or hung on a cross, or whatever. I mean, that oppression was very real. And so they spiritualized their own experiences of feeling trapped and feeling oppressed, and they turned it into a religion, because it gave them a way to experience those feelings without threatening the status quo. Because those are your two choices. When you're being oppressed by some government or some literal soldier walking around with a shield and a sword and pointing a sword at you and saying, hey, do your job. You're no longer so-and-so. You're part of the Roman Empire. You can either rebel and get killed, or you can spiritualize it, and you can go and be part of a mystery religion where you're born again. That's where the whole idea of being born again comes from, because you're wanting to escape. Before all of that, when we lived in shamanic awareness and connected to nature, and we lived in this amazing multi-dimensional universe, you wanted to be physical. You didn't want to die. You wanted to stay alive. That's why the Taoists work on immortality as opposed to enlightenment. Enlightenment means escaping. Moksha means liberation, escaping. The Taoists sought to become immortal. They wanted to stay in some kind of physical manifested form. Maybe they wanted maybe a little more higher vibration so they could do things like walk through walls and blah, 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 but they still wanted to be physical. So I want you to sit with that feeling for a moment. What you think is spiritual, when you think of spirituality, do you think about escaping the pain and the misery of your physical existence? And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against experiencing. In fact, I seek it out all the time. I became a Qigong master and a Kundalini Yoga teacher, and I became a shamanic African, drum quote master. I did all that stuff so that I could experience and connect to the infinite and to the ethereal. I love it. It gets me high. That's why I teach all that stuff. But I teach all that stuff so I can be more happy and effective in my physical body. Because I want to be here. I want to enjoy all the benefits of being a human being. As I've said before, the gods, all the beings, the gods and the spirits look down on humans and go, God, I wish I could become a human. I would take all of this infinity and put it in a box and go down there just to run around and have all that fun. And this is a new idea that spirituality is escaping. Ascending is just another word of escaping. So this idea of the 4 dimensions and the 5 dimensions and the 12 dimensions, again, my take on that is that while, again, there is some truth to the fact that you can connect to higher vibrational essences and experiences, and you can integrate that, and you should. But the contention that I have with the quote that I read was that your true soul is up there on level 12 and that you're fragmented. So let's look again. This is not meant to be a criticism of the individual who left the comment, because this is a very, very common thing. So, but let me just read some of the things about. Here we go. So the further we ascend, the closer we become one with our soul. So let me just deal with that for a second. So that is an assumption, right? Everything is based on assumption. If we don't share the same assumption when we're communicating, we won't communicate, and we're going to argue, and no matter what I say, you're not going to like it, and I'm not going to like what you say. But if we can at least understand what the assumption is in the discussion, then we can have a discussion. You can choose to believe what you want or not after the fact. So the assumption here is in this sentence, which is, the idea was that our soul resided as a whole beyond the 12th dimension. And as we ascend, we get closer to our soul. So that doesn't sound like there's any judgment in that. But now think about it. What's the first thing that hits you? Oh my God, I'm not in a 12th dimension. I'm not connected to my soul. It creates a fear, and it creates a need to change and be something different, and to ascend out of this, as what is called here, fragmented experience. So it says the idea was that our soul resided as a whole beyond the 12th dimension. We're in the third. So that's, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's beyond 9 more dimensions. You got to go 9 more dimensions just to begin to get close. That's, no matter what you think, there's so much judgment in there about how far away you are. Oh my God, I'm so far. Not from God, but from your own soul. I'm trying to tell you the exact opposite is what's going on. Your soul chose to come here. So your entire soul is here with you inside your human body. It is trying to have a 3-dimensional experience. So here you are, here's the irony. Here you are, your entire soul is with you, but you're trying to get to dimension 12 because you think that's where your soul is. And your soul's like, no, man, I'm right here. I want to be in 3, because in 3 I can be limited and I can have fun and I can interact with this amazing environment that I just created, and I can do stuff like this. I can't do that on the 12th dimension. It's too infinite. I need to be in 3 dimensions to be able to, push against the bottom of my surfboard as the wave is trying to crash over me and push me towards the shore so that I need to be in 3 dimensions. Why are you trying to take me out of my 3 dimensions? I'm having a good time here. Got it? So this is why we do things like meditation. This is why we do things like Qigong. This is why we do things like shamanic journeying. Let's take shamanic journeying for example. There's a phrase in shamanic journeying called soul retrieval. Why would you want to do that? You would want to retrieve your soul so that your whole soul can be with you. The assumption is that your soul is whole and it is with you, and something happens to fragment it. You got to go back and grab it and bring it back to you. Your soul isn't out there. Your soul's in here. So I just want you to sit with that. Sit with, first off, the feeling that you have. Do you feel disconnected? Trust me, I'm okay if you do. I know that feeling. I know what that's like. And I know what it's like to feel connected. When somebody talks about ascension and you get excited about that, how do you feel about only being in the 3rd dimension? How do you feel about the fact that you're not in the 12th or the 4th or the 5th dimension? I mean, do you feel like you are? I mean, if you do, that's great. If you're on my channel and or if you're watching this, you probably at some part of you feels like you need to do more to ascend. I think it's more of like full realization. Full realization is here. So the other thing to understand is that however many dimensions there are, they are all here with you right now. You don't have to journey to them. They're here right now. And they are seeking to empower your three-dimensional experience. So, again, assumptions are everything, and your base assumption of how you look at the world is everything. And so if you are on one of these paths, like many people are, trying to ascend beyond to get to your true soul, again, we could change the word of soul to God, right? So let me use the same quote, and instead of saying soul, I'm going to say God. Before I met you, my understanding of God goes like this. There are several layers of God. There is the layer of God that inhabits my body. The layer above that is called the higher God. And then above that was God, which knew everything. Doesn't it sound exactly like Christianity? I heard about this different dimension in this way. We live in the third dimension, and people talk about ascending to the fourth, fifth, and fifth dimension. The further we ascended, the closer we became one with God. The idea was that God resided as a whole beyond the 12th dimension. And as we descended down, we fragmented further through each dimension until we reached where we are now. As we ascend, we regain those parts of God until we are whole with God again. Do you see that? All that's happening is that New Age spirituality is taking the Christian idea, which started out as Gnosticism, which I know, is the cool thing to be Gnostic, as though that's like, but it's not. Gnosticism was a desperate religion of people who were victims, who felt victimized by real things in their life, and in order to survive, they had to spiritualize it. And so they started talking about this evil overlord that was ruling over them, who they called the demiurge. And what happened is that Jews who became Gnostics then started talking about Jehovah as being this demiurge, and then the Messiah was up at the 12th dimension or whatever it was. And so the Messiah was the true God, and there was this demiurge. Do you see that? It's all coming from hating your life and feeling oppressed. There's nothing spiritual about it. In fact, it's the opposite. The more that you try to ascend beyond the third dimension in order to get to God, to your true soul, the more, that's how you fragment yourself. That's exactly what happens when people get messed up in drugs. They get addicted to whatever. They become violent. They become, materialistic. Those are all ways to fragment yourself from here and now. Trying to get to there is fragmenting yourself. Trying to fragment yourself within the here and now in the ways that I mentioned is a way of fragmenting yourself. So what is it that I teach? What I teach is that if you realize what your soul desire is, which is here in your body, wanting to have a three-dimensional physical experience in this three-dimensional world, if you can connect with that desire, realize what it is, and go do it, the action of doing the thing your soul wants to do in this three-dimensional reality is what will bring you closer to the wholeness of your soul. And if you get rid of the idea that it's backwards, the idea that we're here trapped and we need to ascend to our true self, that's not accurate at all, that it's the flip side, that we were in all of that and we wanted to come here to have a video game experience in 3 dimensions. You're working against yourself. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that you can't have very powerful spiritual experiences, because I have. I've left my body. I've been to other dimensions. I used to be an exorcist. I'm a Qigong master, blah, blah, blah. I really enjoy doing all those things. But I enjoy doing all those things because they empower me to stay here in the physical realm and have fun here in the physical realm. Okay? All right. So there's my thoughts about that. We could talk about the 10 bodies. So why don't we do that? So you've probably heard of the subtle bodies, like there are 7 subtle bodies or 9 subtle bodies or 12 subtle bodies or whatever it is. And people always want to, the causal body and the etheric body and the emotional body. You hear people talk about that kind of stuff all the time. So I like the idea that came from Kundalini Yoga, which is, I studied and practiced and taught Kundalini Yoga for years. And they talk about the 10 bodies. And they have very practical meditations and exercises and things that you can do to balance the 10 bodies. And if you go, in fact, you can go do it. I mean, I thought about doing this, but I don't. You can go to, 3ho.com? Let me see, I'll find out right now. You can go to 3ho.org. Here it is, the 10 bodies. And you can take a test. You can put down your, you put down your birth date or something like that, and you'll find out what's going on with your 10 bodies. And so there will be specific yogic mantras, or not yogic so much as Kundalini Yoga meditations and mantras, which will help balance out all the 10 bodies. So the first one is the soul body, which is exactly what we've been talking about. So you see that the first one is the soul. They don't even wait till number 10. They're not telling you this, but they're operating from the base assumption that the soul is your essence. It's inside of your body. That's the first one, your soul body. The second body is called your negative mind, which is the part of your mind that is constantly looking for negative things. Don't touch that hot stove. You touch the hot stove, you burn yourself, and then you spend the rest of your life going, okay, I can't touch hot stoves because it'll burn me. It serves to help you unless your negative body is out of whack, in which case you're afraid of everything. Don't ever get in relationships. Don't pay your taxes, whatever it is. That's your negative mind is out of whack. Then the third body is the positive mind. So the positive mind says, no, the stove is good. Yes, you can burn your finger on it, but you can also cook food on it. So don't touch the stove, but definitely use it to boil water and cook food. That's a good thing. But if your positive mind is out of whack and you just don't have any negative mind, then you're constantly, getting yourself into trouble because you don't listen to your instinct when it says, careful, that's hot. Then you have the neutral mind. This is the fourth body. The neutral mind. This is the mind that meditates, that has the balance of the two, positive and negative. That says exactly that. It says, yes, fire is good. If you touch it, you'll burn yourself, but it cooks food. And I can see now the interchange of how fire can be hurtful and can how be beneficial. So that's the neutral mind, the fourth body. The fifth body is the physical body. So that's obvious. We don't need to talk about that. The sixth body is called the arc line. The arc line is when you look at pictures of saints that have halos, that's the arc line. It's your antenna. It actually goes around from ear to ear like that. So it's your arc line. It's your antenna to the universe and to hearing messages from the gods and from the ancestors. It comes through your antenna, which is your arc line. So the idea is if people who've done a lot of breathing and yogic meditation and they're seeing with their quote third eye, they might see somebody who's got a lot of energy. They'll see like this arc line, and that's why you see pictures of people with halos around their head. Then there's the seventh body, which is the aura. Pretty standard stuff. It's just the energetic field around you. Your aura is your first and your last defense against negativity, both physical and non-physical. Your aura can do things like help stop pathogens as they're coming into your body. Your aura will help protect you from negative thoughts and intentions from other people and or beings. It's how you vibrate and extend. It's part of your protective sphere that also is empowers others. That's your aura, your seventh body. Then the eighth body is called the pranic body, which is prana is breath. So this is through your breath, you use your pranic body to take energy from your outside. If you're walking around, there's a lot of trees and stuff like that. The trees are sending out chi, energy, prana. Through your breath, you're able to tap into that and bring that prana into your body. That's obvious. This is your pranic body. Then the ninth body is your subtle body. And the subtle body is the ability to understand things at their depth. And according to my 10-body reading, my ninth subtle body, I'm all about the ninth body, which is why, by the way, you leave a comment of 5 or 6 words. I know exactly what's going on and why you said what you said and what you're really thinking and feeling. That's my ninth subtle body. So it's very active. Your 10th body is your radiant body, and that is the sum total of all of your bodies. And somebody who's radiant, who walks around with this radiance and this positivity and this power, is somebody who has a balance with all of their other 9 bodies, are balanced and empowered. But do you see, those 10 bodies all operate from the assumption that you are your soul and your soul is here. It's not out there. That's why it's so practical, and that's why they have exercises, and they tell you if this body's out of whack, this is what happens. So, you do this exercise and chant this mantra and do this, live like this, eat this kind of food and do that. Then the whole idea is so that your life goes better. And this whole idea of leaving and going to the 12th, the freaking 12th dimension. Sorry, again, I'm not trying to be critical of the comment, but doesn't matter, 5, 6, 7, and it's way out there, and we have to get to that dimension. It's really not very life affirming, because what ends up happening is you start wanting to leave. You start judging your physical body. You start judging your physical reality. If somebody were to take that and take it to the extreme, they might want to off themselves to get to the 12th dimension. When all of spirituality, shamanism, that's why I love shamanism, because shamanism is about practical living in the physical world and balancing it with the non-physical and using our connection to the non-physical to experience the physical. And just because you have a physical body doesn't mean you're not having a spiritual experience. The physical body is a spiritual manifestation. Who cares that it's in 3 dimensions? There are however many dimensions. If you're stuck on the 12th dimension and you can't get to dimension 3, you're just as limited as somebody who's stuck in 3 and can't get to 12. The idea is to be in all of them, whether you're in your body or out of your body. You understand? I hope that makes some sense. All right, so I'll go ahead and take some questions now if there are any. So let's go to the live streaming page. And again, I operate best if you ask a question. So if you've just dropped a comment, I'm more than likely going to bypass it. Because I do have that powerful 9th subtle body, I function a lot better if you ask me an honest question. And even then, I might pick out something that you've said to show you where I think your thinking is off. But that's the best way to get along with me. I operate well that way. So let's take a look and see here. So Deuce88, new to my channel, I appreciate if you write the word question, usually in all caps, just the first word in all caps, because I see it, because I'm scrolling through all the people saying, hey, how are you? Great channel. I did this, and I'm a blah, and you did blah. I'm trying to get all that to get to your question. So you say, work we have to do. Also, Deuce88, I believe that you have the ability to actually write full sentences with a subject, an object, and a verb and all of that. So do me a favor, write a whole sentence like you were talking to me. If we were talking to me, would you go, work we have to do? You wouldn't do that. You would give your question the value it deserves and the honor that you deserve by giving a full question to your question, because you want me to answer it. And how am I going to answer it if you're not writing it all out? You're doing yourself a disservice. So if you really want me to answer that question, write out a full question. It's showing respect to me, and it's showing respect to yourself, and I'll be more inclined to respond. Sylvester Kelly, question. Do you know what is a Cyan of Egypt? Am I talking about that? Have I once mentioned that? So you're doing yourself some disrespect and me some disrespect by asking me about something that's not connected to what I'm talking about. I'm not even sure the spelling. I've been searching relentlessly but able to get any information. So go talk to somebody who talks about that. Pay me the respect that I'm giving you. How long have I been talking here? An hour and a half or something like that? Yeah, about an hour. I've been talking to you a lot, sharing a lot of my thoughts, and you want to ask me about some question about something that I've never talked about? It's disrespectful. If you want me to ask me a real question, ask me a question about what I'm sharing, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Isis Sabra, could you explain the differences between the third, fourth, and fifth dimensions? Yeah. Who cares? You're in the third dimension now. You've chosen to be here now. Why do you need to care about fourth and fifth? This whole ascending to the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension is an escape. And it's an escape that, and the reason why it's popular is because people want to escape. They're in pain. If you're in pain, it means that you are not operating from your soul in the third dimension. And let me be clear, even if you were to escape the matrix or live in the fourth or the fifth dimension, if you weren't connected to your soul in the third dimension, you're not going to be connected in the fourth or the fifth. Being in the fourth or the fifth is not going to get you closer to your true essence. You escape the matrix, then you're going to be in another world still miserable. This is why there's this thing called the underworld. When people die, they go to the underworld to get reborn. Why does that happen? Because they weren't fully connected to their soul in this life. So what makes you think being out of your body is going to make it any easier? It's going to be harder. Being in the third dimension is the best place to be to connect and ascend, evolve, and empower. So whatever you're talking about, third, fourth, and fifth dimensions, I'm here to tell you it's made up New Age nonsense. It doesn't help you. Let's see here. No more questions? Oh, there's got to be some questions here. So Isis Sabra, again, I know you probably wrote this before I stopped talking, but I appreciate if you write the word question, then I can find your question. What determines what true Gnosticism is? There is no true Gnosticism. Gnosticism, as I told you, is a religion that was created 2,000 years ago by people who were victims and were in a lot of pain, and they were trying to spiritualize their pain, and they created this religion of escapism and self-denial and self-hatred and shame, and they spiritualized it and called it Gnosticism. So there is no true Gnosticism. There's just being. If you want to talk about what is true spirituality, being yourself, being as happy as you can be in your physical body, being as healthy and prosperous and doing all of the things that you love. That is being a god. You want to become a god? When you die, you want to look back and go, was there anything else that I wanted to do? And if your answer is nope, I did everything, I don't have any regrets, then you've achieved it. We keep coming back, and that's not a bad thing, because you at the end of the life you go, yeah, listen, I did that, and I climbed Mount Everest, and I did this other thing, and I became a business mogul, and I had kids, and then I did that. Oh, there was that one thing, that's right, I wanted to surf. I didn't learn how to do that. Okay, next time I'm going to surf. Then you become reborn, and then you wake up, and you're born in California or Hawaii or someplace like that, and you grow up surfing, and then that becomes your life, and then at the end of that life, you go, let's see, I did this and this and this, and yeah, I surfed. Oh, that's right, I wanted to be a playboy. Crap. Okay, next life, I'm going to go be a playboy. There's nothing wrong with any of your physical desires. You want true awareness? Just have fun. Have as much fun as you can stand. That's true spirituality. Stormageddon, Dark Lord of All. Question, which of the 10 bodies are strengthened by doing your Qigong exercises? All of them. But especially, if you have to pick, especially the The neutral mind, the fourth body, the fifth body, the physical body, the arc line, the sixth body, the aura, the seventh body, but definitely the eighth body, the pranic body, but also the ninth and the 10th, but all of them. Qigong will, that's just like a one-stop shop. You don't know what to do Qigong. That'll give you everything you want. Do the Hool breath. You're new to this channel, you don't know what I'm talking about here. All you have to do is just go onto YouTube, anywhere on YouTube, and type in this phrase. Do that every day for an hour a day. If you don't know what else to do that. Follow my instructions. Do that exercise for an hour a day for a year, and then come back and tell me if you haven't completely revolutionized your whole life. You got one practice that's going to do everything. There it is. Truth is with us. Question. Michael, how can I heal my negative body so that I'm not having fear of being betrayed by other people or failing all the time? Honestly, go get some therapy. Get some therapy. Go talk to somebody. The way to overcome the negative body is by strengthening the positive body. But if you want to strengthen both the positive and the negative body, which you need both of them, then empower the neutral mind. The neutral mind is meditation. Do the Hool breath. You just asked, how do I do it? Do the Hool breath for an hour every day for a year. See, you're going to find out how serious you are. If I tell you to do that meditation for an hour a day, you're going to find out how serious you are if you say, oh, an hour? I don't have an hour. Then I know you're really not all that serious. Most people aren't. They think they are. They're miserable. They're upset. They want a fix-it pill. I'm not saying that's the way it has to be. I don't know if an hour is going to do it for you or not. But it certainly won't kill you. That's for sure. But the idea that you are fear of being betrayed by other people or failing all the time, that's some serious issues. That's not something that's going to be fixed like that. You need to take a look at what happened to you as a kid. I mean, I don't know you, but just based on that, I'm pretty certain you had a dysfunctional family growing up, right? That kind of stuff doesn't happen out of nowhere. You need some help. I would go get some counseling. That's one of the things that I do here. One of the things I offer for apprentices is I counsel them. That's why I have a teacher. I have a therapist. Here I am a spiritual teacher, and yet I have a therapist. Because they're modern day shamans. They're limited in scope, but that's what they do. Okay, the question, the word question is the only one that needs to be in all caps. It's okay if you write the whole thing in all caps, but then I feel like you're yelling at me. So you can write the word question in all caps and then write the question. Jane Tone's question, do the higher dimensions get spiritually better? I think I've answered that. No. They're just another form of spirituality. There's nothing better or worse. I'm going to give you a really extreme example, but the Agoris. If you don't know what an Agori is, go look it up. The Agoris are the tantric spiritual practitioners of India, and they're looked upon, both with derision and with respect. And they will say, if you want to truly be spiritual, eat your own feces. Now, I have no interest in doing that, nor do I recommend anybody else do it. It's incredibly unsanitary and unhealthy. But the idea is that you love everything, that there's no such thing. There's no division between good or bad. So there is no better dimension. As I said, if you're in the 12th dimension and you're not connected to your third dimension, you're going to be miserable in the 12th. You're in a really good spot. You only have to worry about 3. And you can be, as I said, the most spiritual you can be is to be fully happy in the third dimension. And I'll be honest with you, people want to escape to the 12th dimension because they don't want to put the work into being happy in just the third. They want an easy out. That's why they want to be saved. That's where Jesus comes in. All you have to do is just ask for Jesus to save you, and then you don't have to take any responsibility for anything. Or you have to go to these gurus, and if you can touch the guru's feet, and the guru will take all of your karma away. But if that guru is really a guru, he's going to be honest and say, listen, I'm just a symbol for your own higher self. And if you think that by touching my feet and having me put my hand on your head and mumble some mantra is going to take away your karma, and it works, it's just because you needed some symbol so that you could believe in yourself. All true teachers know that they are just that. If you've been given a gift to be a teacher, it means that other people see their higher self in you, and while they are coming out of their own insanity of thinking that they're miserable in this three-dimensional world, they focus on you, and they think that you have the answer and you're going to do this, and they follow your teachings, and what ends up happening is they find themselves. And, listen, I make no attempt to hide who I am. I make it very clear to all of you guys that I am just as human as you are. In fact, I went through one of the most human weeks I've ever been through this past week. And thankfully, I'm coming out of it. But all the stuff that you go through, I go through. And I've had experiences where people, I've been teaching people, and whatever it is I'm teaching, if I'm teaching them some kind of Qigong exercise or spiritual blah, blah, blah in person, and I'll start talking. Right? And I remember one time I started talking and I said, for example, let's say a couple are going through this, and one person says that and the other person says this, and what that really means is blah, blah, blah. And they're looking at me with eyes like that. And then afterwards they go, how did you know that? I'm like, how did I know what? Well, you just explained what happened to us last week, word for word. And I said, I did? And they go, yeah, I did. I was just trying to make an example. That's because I'm just a conduit. That doesn't make me any more or less spiritual than anybody else. That just happens to be my job. That's it. And just because a spiritual teacher has some value or has some power, it doesn't mean that their lives aren't screwed up. I'm thinking of one person in particular who is a therapist who has a YouTube channel, and I watch every now and then, I watch what this person does. And they have a lot of really good things to say, and they're really helping a lot of people. And yet that person has interacted with me off of their channel, offline, and they were one of the most destructive, insane people I've ever run across. So just because that person has a gift of being able to, talk some good therapy and have really good advice, it doesn't mean that they're following it and that they're not screwed up. Same is true with any other teacher. The teachers who end up getting into trouble, like the teachers who end up afterwards, you find out that they were sexually abusing their students, or they were frauds, or they were stealing money, because they believed the hype. I'm lucky. I can't, even if I wanted to, I couldn't believe the hype, because I'm so human. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't believe it. But I've had that experience where I'm talking with somebody and I touch their head and they go into spasm and they go, oh my God, this energy went through my body. I'm like, what'd you do? I said, I didn't do anything. I just touched you. I wasn't planning on it. I didn't. Not me. I'm not doing anything. And neither is any other teacher out there. So there's no benefit in anything anywhere else. There's no benefit. Just enjoy. The only thing that matters is if you're happy. That's it. And the problem is that we have to be happy in 3 dimensions first. If we can be happy in 3 dimensions, we can be happy in 4, 5, 6, 7, however many else there are. So the higher dimensions don't get spiritually better. Do you hear the judgment in that? Stormageddon, Dark Lord of All. I'm doing the 30 Saj Mudra. Oh, that's not a question. All right. Okay, I don't see any more questions here. So you know the drill. If you're not giving me any questions, then I got to sell you stuff. So, lockdown.thunderwizard.com. At request, by popular request, I have kept that open. It is all of my certifications and teachings and video courses that if you were to buy them all separately, they'd be $3,214. I smashed them all together into one package, and I'm basically giving it away. I'm giving you a $2,000 savings right now. So, take advantage of that. We're still in lockdown. I'm finding out that the United States is still really screwed up, more so than ever. It's like, like somebody said, it's like we didn't do anything. We've been locked down for X amount of months, and we might as well just not done that. And so the lockdown is still going on. So, I'm not ready to get rid of it tomorrow, but I'm looking for an excuse to get rid of it. It's been there for a while. So take advantage of it before it's gone. Thunderwizard.com is the subscription site. It's also the site because people in the beginning, when I started doing these videos and writing my books, people said, I need to know, where do I start? I need a course to go from A to Z. And so I created the Shamanism Mastery course, which there are thousands, got to be hundreds, if not thousands of hours of video with specific exercises and teachings. And I do exactly that. I take you from A to Z to master shamanism and spirituality, and there's no way you're going to get through that in 1 month, and that's only $25 a month. Hey, if you don't like it, unsubscribe. What have you lost? How much do you spend on coffee a month? Literally, if you were to add up all the money that you spend on coffee, just take half of that, and there you go. And on the higher level above that is the Manifestation Mastery course, which you can, again, hundreds of hours of videos where I tell you exactly how to manifest the life that you want and what you can do and what's wrong with all the garbage you're being taught out there about manifestation. So that's how you help me keep this channel going. You subscribe. Courses.thunderwizard.com has everything. Most of that is in the lockdown package, but a couple of things aren't. My books and DVDs cannot be found on the lockdown package. You can only get it there. And by the way, some people have gotten the lockdown package and then said, I don't want the lockdown package. I just want to, I want you to give me the subscription package and the thing. And it's like, that's not how this works. In fact, there's still one person out there who, the other thing is, if you buy the lockdown package, bear in mind that it's a PayPal button. And if your PayPal email address is no longer valid, I can't get it to you. So there's somebody out there, at least one person out there, that's still waiting around for his lockdown package links. I can't get them to you because your PayPal email address is no longer valid. So what's the two most important things in life? Pay attention and put effort. I know, because I have also gone through this past week where I didn't pay enough attention to things, and I almost had both of my all three. I had two of my bank accounts closed, and I was lucky. I came in fast enough to get them to turn it back on, and then if I had waited another day, I would have zero money. I'd be in a foreign country with no money. That's because I didn't pay attention. So, two most important things in life: pay attention and then effort. So listen to everything I say in these, and that's what you'll get. Now, if you want to achieve enlightenment, I'll tell you this one thing, this one trick. I can guarantee you, if you do it, in fact, it'll only take, a couple of nanoseconds, but if you can do this exact one thing, you will achieve complete enlightenment. You will be in all 36 million dimensions, and you will be in all timelines forever, and you'll never have to worry about anything ever again. Get ready, here it comes. Subscribe and hit the bell button. If you do that, you'll never have to do anything else. You'll be completely, totally enlightened. All right, let's see. Is that it? All right, so I've done all of my business. I can't think of anything else. So we're just going to end it there for today. And thank you all for showing up. And I hope you have, I hope wherever you are, you're staying safe and keeping your wits about you. And yeah, this is the time, I'll end up with this. Here's what the pandemic is all about. The pandemic is real, by the way. How do I know that? Because I know people who have it. So I can tell you that it's real. So please stop with this nonsense that it's all made up. Please get out of the victim mentality. Please stop being such children. Stop being such whiny babies. Stuff actually happens. This is a real thing. And, don't be stupid about it. But I'll tell you why it's here. The spiritual reason why it's here is because it is a physical manifestation of our internal state that we've been in for the past 2,000 years, which is feeling isolated. Again, think about trying to get to the 12th level, to the 12th dimension. How does that make you feel? It's going to make you feel isolated. When we get to the 12th dimension, we will be one with our soul. And right now we're in a fragmented state. The demiurge is between us and the true. Makes you feel isolated. And so that spirituality, that so-called true spirituality, that gnosis and self-knowledge has created a pandemic where people actually now are isolated. You can't talk to anybody. You can't touch anybody. You have to stay at home. And all of the crap that goes along with that is a result of this feeling of isolation. We've now manifested it. So you want to overcome the pandemic? Work on that feeling of isolation. Stop trying to go out there and go in here. Find the power within yourself. I'm going to give you a mantra. You can chant this. Om Lambodharaya Hung. Om Lambodharaya Hung. I'll spell it out for you. Om is O-N-G. It's a long O. Om Lambodharaya Hung. Lambodhara is an aspect of Ganesha, which is the planet Ketu, the planet of liberation. But if you want liberation, you must first find connection to everything. Lambodhara means big-bellied. So this is why Ganesha is this picture. We think he looks like a man, a big man with a belly, but he's actually a boy. He's a fat baby with a big belly, and he has a little baby elephant head. And he has a big belly because he has the whole universe within him. So he's completely content because everything is inside of him, not outside of him. So if you want to learn how to connect to the 12th dimension, find the universe within you. The whole universe is inside of you. So that is one mantra that you can chant, Om Lambodharaya Hum. And you go Hum, because Hum is a spiritual weapon. It destroys negativity. Your own negativity about you're separated. You're only in 3 dimensions, but you need to be in 12. And I'm stuck at home and I have to wear a mask. And it's all a hoax and they're doing it to me. Om Lambodharaya Hum. And if you want to know how to do it, you can go and watch my video, How to Do a 40-Day Mantra Discipline, and you'll know how to use one of these and how to chant it 108 times. You won't know all of it because I don't know where Ketu is in your chart, but it doesn't matter. He'll help you. Ketu will help you with that. All right, there you go. I don't have anything else to say. I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to leave you all go. Again, my thanks to the person, they know who they are, who left the comment. Again, I hope that this person understands this is not a criticism. It's an opportunity for me to share and expound on everything. And I guess we'll leave it at that. All right. Catch you all next time.